Gabriel Williams stood at his kitchen counter, staring at the bank transfer confirmation on his phone screen. $450. Same amount, same day of the month, same recipient he'd been supporting for 6 years without question. His finger hovered over the confirm button, but tonight something made him pause. Not doubt about the obligation itself. A promise made to a dying wife was sacred, unbreakable, but a heaviness that had been building for months. Each payment felt like tearing open a wound that refused to heal, a monthly reminder of everything he'd lost and everything he'd sworn to protect. The notification chimed. Another past due notice, this time from the gas company. Final warning before disconnection. Gabriel's jaw tightened as he scrolled through his banking app, watching the numbers tell their brutal story. After rent on their small apartment in South Philadelphia, groceries, his daughter Maya's asthma medications, and the monthly support payment to his former mother-in-law Patricia, there was almost nothing left. Before we continue with Gabriel's story, we want to welcome you here. If you're new, you're about to witness a journey of manipulation, discovery, and ultimate freedom. We share real stories about real struggles every single week. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button so you never miss what comes next. Drop a like if you're ready to see how this unfolds, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. New York? Texas? Somewhere across the world? We'd love to know. Now, let's get back to Gabriel as his world begins to unravel. His HVAC technician salary was solid. $52,000 a year wasn't poverty. But raising a 9-year-old alone meant every dollar had been allocated before it even hit his account. Every dollar except those $450 that vanished into Patricia Brennan's world each month, disappearing without acknowledgement or gratitude. Maya appeared in the kitchen doorway, still wearing her school uniform, her backpack dragging on the floor. "Dad, can we go to the arcade this weekend? Sarah's having her birthday party there, and everyone's going." Gabriel crouched to her level, his knees cracking slightly. He was only 34, but felt decades older. He smoothed a hand over Maya's curly hair, so much like her mother's it sometimes hurt to look at her. "Let me check the schedule. Okay, I might have to work Saturday." It wasn't entirely a lie. He'd been picking up weekend overtime whenever possible, installing commercial units in the suburbs for extra cash. But they both knew what "let me check" really meant. It meant no. It meant they couldn't afford the $40 for arcade, tokens, and pizza when the electric bill was overdue. Maya's face fell, but she nodded with the quiet acceptance that children develop when they learn too early that life isn't fair. "That's okay. Sarah will understand." She wouldn't, of course. 9-year-olds didn't understand why some families could afford birthday parties and others couldn't. But Maya had learned not to push, not to make her father feel worse than he already did. That resilience broke Gabriel's heart more than any bill ever could. His phone buzzed against the counter. A text from Patricia Brennan. "We need to talk about the arrangement. Call me tonight. Important." Gabriel stared at the message, unease coiling in his stomach. In 6 years, 72 payments, Patricia had never wanted to talk about anything. She accepted the money with cold efficiency, never asking about Maya, never acknowledging the sacrifice these payments represented. The handful of times they'd spoken since Vanessa's funeral, Patricia's voice had carried a sharp edge of accusation, as if Gabriel were somehow responsible for her daughter's death from ovarian cancer. As if his grief was less legitimate because he'd survived while Vanessa hadn't. She'd made it clear at the funeral. Vanessa had wanted Gabriel to support her mother financially. It was non-negotiable. Patricia had given him account information scrawled on a piece of paper, her hands trembling. Grief, Gabriel had assumed at the time. Looking back now, he wondered if it had been something else entirely. He helped Maya with her math homework, but his mind kept circling back to that text. Something felt different, wrong. Why would Patricia want to change an arrangement that had worked for 6 years? Unless it hadn't been working for her. Unless she needed more money. The thought made his chest tighten. He was already stretched beyond his limits. After Maya was asleep, Gabriel found himself standing in his bedroom closet, staring at the plastic storage bin labeled Vanessa in his own handwriting. He'd barely touched it since the funeral, too raw to handle physical reminders. The grief counselor had said that was normal, that he'd open it when he was ready. 6 years later, He still wasn't sure he was ready. But tonight, something compelled him to lift the lid. Her wedding ring, loose on the chain he'd bought intending to wear it, but never could. A few photos he'd missed when packing up her hospital room. Her medical ID bracelet from the oncology ward, the plastic worn smooth from months of wear. And at the bottom, a manila envelope he didn't remember seeing before. Gabriel pulled it out carefully. The envelope was from Horizon Hospice Care, Vanessa's final care facility. Inside were intake forms, medication logs, and a letter on hospice letterhead. His eyes caught on a handwritten note at the bottom of one page. Emergency contact, Patricia Brennan, mother. Financial responsibility, patient's husband, Gabriel Williams. Do not contact mother regarding bills. Per patient request. Per patient request. Gabriel read the line 3 times, his electrician's steady hands beginning to shake. Vanessa hadn't wanted the hospice contacting Patricia about money. She'd specifically requested they not involve her mother in financial matters. But after Vanessa died, Patricia had told him the opposite. She'd said Vanessa's dying wish was for Gabriel to support her mother monthly, that Vanessa had been terrified of Patricia ending up homeless or unable to pay for her medications. Patricia had cried when she told him, sitting in his living room 3 days after the funeral, grief raw on both their faces. She'd said Vanessa had made her promise to ask Gabriel because she knew her husband was a good man who honored his commitments. Gabriel had believed her without question. What kind of man would refuse his dead wife's final wish? He pulled out his phone and opened his banking app, something he should have done years ago but had avoided out of misplaced guilt. He navigated to the payment history for Patricia's account. 6 years of transfers, $450 each, never missed. $32,400 total. Enough to buy a decent used car. Enough for a down payment on a small house. Enough that Maya could have gone to that birthday party and 100 others without Gabriel having to choose between his daughter's childhood and keeping the lights on. He clicked on Patricia's account details. The routing number led to First National Bank, a major chain. But something about the account name caught his eye. It wasn't listed as Patricia Brennan. It was listed as P. Brennan Trust Account. Trust account, not a personal checking or savings. A trust account required legal setup, beneficiaries, specific purposes. You didn't just open a trust account to receive help from your son-in-law. Those were for estate planning, for managing assets. Gabriel's stomach dropped. He navigated to his contacts and found Patricia's number. But before calling, he did something he should have done 6 years ago. He searched for Patricia Brennan's name along with Philadelphia and obituary, just to see what he could find about Vanessa's family history. The results that populated made his blood run cold. The first link was to a real estate listing. A townhouse in Manayunk, one of Philadelphia's nicer neighborhoods, listed at $485,000. The property details showed it had sold 18 months ago. The seller, Patricia J. Brennan. Gabriel clicked through to the next result. Another real estate listing, this one from 4 years ago. A vacation property in the Poconos, sold for $225,000. His hand was shaking harder now. He opened a new tab and searched more specifically. Patricia Brennan, Philadelphia property records. The county database pulled up a detailed history. In the past 6 years, Patricia had sold 4 properties, totaling over $1.3 million in transactions. The most recent sale had been just 8 months ago. She wasn't poor. She wasn't struggling. She was liquidating real estate, holdings worth nearly $1 million. Gabriel's phone slipped from his hands, clattering on the hardwood floor. The sound jolted him back to reality, and he scrambled to grab it, checking to make sure Maya hadn't woken up. His daughter slept on, oblivious to her father's world cracking apart in the next room. For 6 years, Gabriel had honored what he believed was Vanessa's dying wish. For 6 years, he'd sent money to support an elderly woman he thought was barely surviving on Social Security. For 6 years, he'd sacrificed his own financial stability, his daughter's opportunities, his peace of mind, all to keep a promise. But Patricia Brennan wasn't elderly. She was 62, younger than Gabriel's own parents. She wasn't surviving on Social Security. She was selling properties worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And based on Vanessa's own written instructions to the hospice, she never wanted her mother involved in financial matters at all. Gabriel stood in his bedroom, the storage bin still open at his feet, and felt something shift inside him. Not just anger, though that was building, hot and righteous, but a terrible clarity. He'd been manipulated, used. Patricia had seen a grieving widower and had exploited his love for Vanessa, his desperation to honor her memory, his guilt of being the one who survived. She'd taken $32,400 from a man struggling to raise his daughter alone, and she'd done it by lying about what Vanessa wanted. The phone in his hand buzzed. Another text from Patricia. Did you get my message? Need to discuss increasing the monthly amount. My expenses have gone up. Call me. Increasing the amount. Gabriel's hands clenched around the phone, and for the first time since Vanessa's death, he felt something besides grief and obligation. He felt rage. Pure, focused, and completely justified rage. Patricia Brennan had stolen 6 years of his life and tens of thousands of dollars. She'd stolen birthday parties from Maya, stolen stability from their household, stolen his peace of mind with manufactured guilt, and now she wanted more. But Gabriel Williams wasn't the broken, grieving man who believed her lies 6 years ago. He was a father fighting for his daughter's future, and he was about to discover just how far that fight would take him. He opened his laptop, the glow illuminating his face in the dark bedroom, and began to dig. The county property records database was clunky, clearly designed in the early 2000s and never updated, but it was thorough. Gabriel had learned to navigate complex electrical schematics. A government website was child's play by comparison. He started with Patricia's name and worked backward through time, building a timeline of transactions that grew more disturbing with each entry. 2019. Sold a duplex in Fishtown for $340,000. 2020. Sold a single-family home in Roxborough for $285,000. 2021. Sold the Poconos vacation property for $225,000. 2023. Sold the Manayunk townhouse for $485,000. For properties in 6 years. Total value, $1.3 million. And those are just the sales he could confirm. There might be others under different names or in different counties. Gabriel cross-referenced the dates with his own bank records. The pattern was unmistakable. Patricia had started selling properties right around the time Vanessa died, and Gabriel had started sending money. But if she was liquidating over $1 million in real estate, why did she need $450 a month from her struggling son-in-law? He clicked through to the property tax records for Patricia's current address, a 3-bedroom house in Mount Airy that Vanessa had grown up in. The assessed value was $380,000, and according to the records, it was owned free and clear. No mortgage. Patricia Brennan wasn't just comfortable. She was wealthy by most standards. The laptop screen blurred as rage warred with disbelief. Gabriel rubbed his eyes and checked the time. 11:47 p.m. Too late to call anyone, but too wired to sleep. He needed more information, needed to understand the full scope of what Patricia had done. He opened Facebook, something he rarely used anymore, and searched for Patricia's profile. She had privacy settings locked down, but her profile picture was public. A recent photo of her on a beach somewhere tropical, tanned and smiling, a cocktail in hand. The caption read, "Living my best life in Turks and Caicos. #blessed. #retirement. #beach life." Gabriel felt physically ill. While he was working double shifts to keep the lights on, while Maya was skipping birthday parties because they couldn't afford arcade tokens, Patricia was taking luxury vacations to the Caribbean. He scrolled further back in her timeline, finding what posts were public. Photos from a cruise to Alaska. Check-ins at upscale restaurants in Center City, Philadelphia. Pictures of a new car, a BMW X5, silver, with the caption "Treating myself." The date on that post was from 14 months ago. Every image was a knife wound. Every vacation photo, every expensive meal, every casual display of wealth was evidence that Patricia Brennan had never needed his money. She'd simply wanted it, and she'd been willing to lie about her dying daughter's wishes to get it. Gabriel's phone buzzed. A text from his sister Denise. You still up? Saw your light on from the street. Denise lived 3 blocks away, close enough to check on him regularly since Vanessa died. She'd been his lifeline through the darkest months, helping with Maya when Gabriel couldn't function, making sure they ate, keeping him tethered to reality when grief threatened to pull him under. He texted back, "Yeah, something came up. Can you talk?" 30 seconds later, his phone rang. "Gabriel, it's midnight. What's wrong? Is Maya okay?" "Maya's fine, but I need to tell you something, and I need you not to think I'm crazy." "You're never crazy. Stressed, overworked, too stubborn for your own good, but never crazy." "What happened?" Gabriel took a breath and laid it all out. The monthly payments, Patricia's text about increasing the amount, the property records showing she'd sold over $1 million in real estate, the hospice documentation saying Vanessa specifically didn't want Patricia involved in financial matters, the Facebook photos of luxury vacations. Denise was silent for a long moment after he finished. When she finally spoke, her voice was tight with controlled fury. "That woman has been scamming you for 6 years. I know. She lied about what Vanessa wanted. I know. She's been taking money from you while you've been struggling to raise Maya alone, while you've been working yourself to death, while my niece has been doing without because you thought you were honoring Vanessa's memory. I know, Denise." Gabriel's voice cracked. "I know all of it, and I don't know what to do." His sister was quiet again, but he could hear her breathing, could picture her pacing in her living room the way she did when she was thinking through a problem. Denise was a paralegal at a family law firm, sharp and methodical. If anyone could help him navigate this, it was her. First thing, Denise said finally, "You document everything. Every payment, every conversation, every text message. Take screenshots of those property records and her Facebook posts. If she's been committing fraud, and Gabriel, that's exactly what this is, you need evidence. What good is evidence if Vanessa's not here to confirm what she actually wanted? The hospice paperwork helps. That's Vanessa's own handwriting saying not to contact Patricia about money. But you're right, we need more. Did Vanessa have a will?" Gabriel's mind went blank. "I don't know. We were so young when she got sick. 28. We just bought life insurance because of Maya, but I don't remember talking about a will. Check with the lawyer who handled Vanessa's estate. There should have been probate paperwork, even if it was simple. And Gabriel? The other thing you need to do, starting right now, is stop sending money." His chest tightened. What if Vanessa really did want me to help her? What if Patricia's just bad with money and really does need it, regardless of the property sales? Listen to yourself. Denise's voice was gentle but firm. You're still trying to find a way this isn't what it obviously is. Patricia lied to you. She manipulated you. She's been taking advantage of your grief for 6 years. You don't owe her another cent. But if I stop paying and it somehow was Vanessa's wish, then Patricia can produce documentation proving it. A letter from Vanessa, something in a will, anything legitimate. But she won't because she can't, because Vanessa never asked for this. The hospice paperwork proves it. Gabriel closed his eyes, pressing his palm against his forehead. She's going to fight back. If I stop paying, if I confront her about the lying, she's going to make this ugly. Of course she will. People don't scam their own son-in-law for $32,000 and then go quietly when exposed. But that's not a reason to keep letting her steal from you and Maya. The mention of his daughter made something solidify in Gabriel's chest. Maya had been paying for Patricia's lies too, in missed opportunities and financial stress and her father's constant exhaustion. Every arcade party she'd skipped, every time she nodded quietly when told they couldn't afford something, every moment she'd learned to expect disappointment. Patricia had stolen those too. "Okay," Gabriel said quietly. "Help me figure out what to do." They talked for another hour, Denise walking him through the steps, gathering documentation, consulting with an attorney, potentially filing a fraud claim. She promised to ask one of the lawyers at her firm about the legal angles, off the record at first, to see what Gabriel's options were. When they finally hung up, Gabriel sat in the dark with his laptop still open, staring at Patricia's Facebook photos. The rage had settled into something colder and more focused. This wasn't just about the money anymore, though $32,400 was more than many people made in a year. This was about what Patricia had stolen that couldn't be measured in dollars. His peace of mind, his daughter's childhood, his ability to grieve Vanessa without the weight of manufactured obligation. This was about the lie at the center of everything, the poison that had infected 6 years of his life. Gabriel opened his banking app and looked at the scheduled transfer for Patricia Brennan, due in 3 days. For 6 years, he'd never missed a payment. But in 3 days, for the first time since Vanessa's death, that would change. He clicked the cancel button, and a confirmation screen appeared. Are you sure you want to cancel this scheduled payment? His finger hovered over confirm, and he thought about Vanessa. Not the idealized memory he'd been carrying, the perfect wife who'd made him promise to care for her mother, but the real woman he'd married. The woman who'd been stubborn and proud, who'd refused to let her parents pay for their wedding because she wanted to build their life on their own terms. The woman who'd written explicit instructions to the hospice not to involve her mother in financial matters. That Vanessa wouldn't have wanted this. She would never have asked him to sacrifice Maya's well-being to support a mother who didn't need support. Gabriel clicked confirm. The scheduled payment disappeared from his upcoming transactions. It felt both momentous and anticlimactic, like stepping off a ledge and finding solid ground instead of the expected fall. He composed a text to Patricia, but didn't send it yet. I won't be continuing the monthly payments. We can discuss this when you're ready to be honest about what Vanessa actually wanted. Tomorrow, he would send it. Tomorrow, he would start the process of taking back his life. Tonight, he allowed himself to sit in the dark and feel the weight begin to lift from his shoulders. The storage bin of Vanessa's belongings was still open at his feet. Gabriel reached in and pulled out a photo he hadn't looked at in years. Vanessa holding newborn Maya in the hospital, her face exhausted but radiant. She was looking at their daughter with such fierce love that Gabriel could feel it through the photograph, across 6 years of grief and confusion. That was the woman he'd lost. That was the woman he needed to honor, not by following Patricia's lies, but by protecting the daughter they'd created together, by giving Maya the childhood Vanessa would have wanted for her. Gabriel set the photo on his nightstand where he could see it and closed the laptop. He was still afraid of what would come next, still uncertain how Patricia would react, still grieving the version of reality he believed in for 6 years. But for the first time since Vanessa died, he felt like he was finally fighting for something instead of just enduring. And that small shift from passive grief to active defense made all the difference. Patricia Brennan called at 7:15 a.m. before Gabriel had even finished making Maya's breakfast. He let it ring through to voicemail while he poured cereal and milk, his hands steady despite the adrenaline spike. Maya was chattering about a science project on volcanoes, oblivious to her father's phone buzzing insistently on the counter. The voicemail notification appeared. Gabriel waited until Maya was brushing her teeth to listen. Gabriel, it's Patricia. Her voice was clipped, annoyed. I'm seeing that next week's transfer was canceled. I assume that's an error on your end. Please fix it immediately and call me to discuss the increase I mentioned. This really isn't optional. This really isn't optional. The presumption in those words, the casual entitlement, made Gabriel's jaw clench. He deleted the voicemail and sent the text he'd composed the night before. I won't be continuing the monthly payments. We can discuss this when you're ready to be honest about what Vanessa actually wanted. The response came within 30 seconds. Call me now. He didn't. He got Maya to school, went to work, and spent the morning installing a new HVAC system in a dental office, his phone buzzing periodically with increasingly aggressive texts from Patricia. He ignored them all, focusing on the physical work, the familiar comfort of mechanical systems that operated on clear principles. Pressure, airflow, temperature exchange. Problems you could diagnose and fix with the right tools. Unlike human problems, which required navigating lies and manipulation and 6 years of false obligation. At lunch, sitting in his work van with a sandwich from home because he couldn't afford the food trucks that parked near the job sites, Gabriel finally read through Patricia's messages. They formed an escalating pattern. This is unacceptable. Call me immediately. You made a commitment to Vanessa. You don't get to just break promises. I don't know what's gotten into you, but this stops now. That money is not optional. If you don't call me by 2 p.m., I will have no choice but to take legal action. Legal action. Gabriel almost laughed. She was threatening to sue him for stopping voluntary payments? Let her try. Let her stand in front of a judge and explain why she needed $450 a month from her struggling son-in-law while sitting on hundreds of thousands in property sales. But the threat nagged at him anyway. Patricia was clearly used to getting her way, used to controlling the narrative. What if she did have some documentation? Something he hadn't found? What if there really was a letter from Vanessa somewhere that he didn't know about? He called Denise. She's threatening to sue me. Of course she is. Did you expect her to just accept losing her cash cow? Denise's voice was dry. Don't let her intimidate you, Gabriel. I talked to one of the attorneys at my firm this morning, off the record like I said. She's got nothing. You can't sue someone for stopping voluntary payments. There's no contract, no legal obligation. What if there's something I missed? Some document? Then she would have mentioned it already instead of just making vague threats. Look, I have the name of a lawyer who handles this kind of thing. Fraud, elder financial abuse in reverse, whatever you want to call it. His name is Richard Kaufman, and he's agreed to meet with you for a free consultation tomorrow if you're available. Gabriel glanced at his work schedule. He had appointments until 5 p.m. Can he do evening? He said 6:30 at his office in Rittenhouse. I'll text you the address. And Gabriel, bring everything. The hospice paperwork, your bank records, the property sales information, screenshots of her Facebook posts. All of it. I will. Thank you, Dee. That's what family's for. Protecting each other from manipulative con artists who happen to share our DNA. After they hung up, Gabriel stared at his phone, at Patricia's text demanding he call her, and made a decision. He would call, but on his terms, when he was ready, with Denise on the line to witness it. The rest of the workday dragged. Gabriel found himself making small errors. Wiring a thermostat backward, misreading a pressure gauge. Mistakes he never made. His boss noticed. Williams, you good? You're not yourself today. Gabriel considered deflecting, but Terry had been his supervisor for 8 years, had given him time off when Vanessa was dying, had been patient with. His grief clouded mistakes in those first terrible months. He deserved honesty. Family stuff. My late wife's mother. Just found out she's been lying to me about some things. Terry's weathered face creased with concern. The woman you've been sending money to? Gabriel blinked. How did you know about that? Gabriel, you've been taking every overtime shift that comes up for 6 years. I know your salary. I know what rent costs in this city. The math doesn't work unless you've got something extra draining your account. I figured it was medical debt from Vanessa, maybe family help. Didn't want to pry. I've been sending Patricia $450 every month. Thought it was what Vanessa wanted. Turns out she's been lying about that, while sitting on hundreds of thousands from selling properties. Terry let out a low whistle. That's low. Real low. Yeah. You stopping the payments? Already did. Now she's threatening to sue me. Terry shook his head. People got no shame. Look, you need time off for lawyer meetings or court or whatever, you let me know. And if money gets tight while you're sorting this out, I can advance you some pay. Not charity, just advancing what you'll earn later. The offer made Gabriel's throat tight. I appreciate that, Terry. Really, that's what crew's for. Looking out for each other. Terry clapped him on the shoulder. Now let's finish this install before the dentist decides we're taking too long. At 5:45 p.m., Gabriel sat in his van outside Maya's after-school program and called Denise. Ready? As I'll ever be. Okay, I need you to tell her at the start that you're recording. Pennsylvania requires two-party consent, so if she stays on the line after you tell her, that's legal consent. Can you do that? Gabriel took a breath and dialed Patricia's number with Denise, still on the line via his work tablet. Patricia answered on the first ring. It's about time. Patricia, I'm recording this call. We need to talk about the payments. There's nothing to talk about. You made a commitment to Vanessa. You don't get to just decide you're done honoring that. I want to honor what Vanessa actually wanted. That's why I went back through her hospice paperwork from Horizon. Found something interesting. A pause. What paperwork? Her intake forms. Her written instructions to the staff. Specifically, the part where she wrote, "Do not contact mother regarding bills, per patient request." Seems like Vanessa didn't want you involved in financial matters. The silence stretched longer this time. When Patricia spoke again, Her voice had changed. Harder, more controlled. Those forms were about medical bills. This is completely different. Is it? Because you told me Vanessa's dying wish was for me to support you financially. But I can't find any evidence that's true. No will, no letter, nothing but your word. You're calling me a liar? Patricia's voice rose. I'm your wife's mother. I held her when she died. I know what she wanted. Then show me. Show me anything in writing from Vanessa that says she wanted me to send you money every month. It wasn't about writing things down, Gabriel. It was about trust. Vanessa trusted me to tell you what she needed. Funny thing about trust, Patricia, it works both ways. And I don't think Vanessa would have wanted you taking $450 a month from me while I've been struggling to raise Maya alone. Especially not when you've sold over $1 million in property in the past 6 years. Another long silence. You've been investigating me? Public records aren't really investigating. They're just facts. And the facts say you don't need my money. You've never needed my money. How dare you? No. Gabriel's voice was quiet but firm. How dare you? You looked at a grieving man trying to honor his wife's memory, and you exploited that. You took money I needed to raise my daughter. You lied about what Vanessa wanted, and now you have the nerve to act offended that I found out. That money was promised to me. By who? Not Vanessa. So by you. You promised yourself my money and just decided to take it. I will sue you for every dollar you owe me. You could try. But when you do, we'll be having this conversation in front of a judge. With the hospice paperwork. With the property records showing you're liquidating assets worth over $1 million. With your Facebook post about Caribbean vacations and new BMWs. And then we'll see what a judge thinks about the legitimacy of your claim. Patricia's breathing was audible over the line, sharp and angry. Vanessa would be ashamed of you, abandoning her mother like this. The words were designed to hurt, and they did. But Gabriel had spent the night preparing for this, had looked at that photo of Vanessa holding newborn Maya, had remembered the woman he actually married instead of the saint he'd been trying to appease. Vanessa would want me protecting our daughter, and that's exactly what I'm doing. The payment stopped, Patricia. If you want to sue me, go ahead. But you won't, because we both know you can't prove Vanessa wanted this. He hung up before she could respond. Denise was quiet for a moment. Then, holy shit, Gabriel. Too much. Are you kidding? That was perfect. Calm, clear, backed up with facts. And I got every second of it recorded. If she does try to sue, this will show a pattern of her claiming unprovable promises. Gabriel leaned back in the driver's seat, adrenaline still coursing through his system. She's not going to just let this go, is she? Probably not. People like Patricia don't stop when they lose control. They escalate. But that's fine. Let her escalate. The more she does, the clearer her true character becomes. And Gabriel, you did the right thing. Doesn't feel right yet. Just feels scary. That's because you're actually standing up for yourself for the first time in 6 years. Of course it's scary, but you're doing it anyway. And that's what matters. After they hung up, Gabriel sat in the parking lot and watched Maya through the after-school program window. She was laughing with another girl, building something with blocks, completely unaware that her father had just cut ties with her grandmother. Eventually, he'd have to explain some of this to her. How did you tell a 9-year-old that her grandmother had been stealing from them? That the money they could have used for birthday parties and field trips had been going to fund someone else's luxury lifestyle? But that was a problem for future Gabriel. Today, Gabriel just needed to pick up his daughter, make dinner, help with homework, and try to sleep without nightmares about lawyers and judges and Patricia's fury. He checked his bank balance one more time. $1,247. Without this month's $450 payment to Patricia, he could actually pay the gas bill on time and maybe even take Maya to that arcade party. It wasn't much, but it was something, a small step toward the life they should have been living all along. Gabriel grabbed his jacket and headed inside to get his daughter, feeling lighter than he had in 6 years, but knowing the real fight was just beginning. If you're still watching at this point, drop a comment with "I'm still here." Let's see who's truly following this story. The first letter arrived 4 days after Gabriel stopped the payments. Certified mail, requiring signature, which immediately sent his anxiety spiking. He signed for it at the post office during lunch break, his hands trembling slightly as he opened the envelope in his van. It was from a law firm, Henderson, Price and Associates, with an address in Center City, Philadelphia. The letterhead was expensive-looking, embossed, designed to intimidate. The letter itself was brief. Dear Mr. Williams, we represent Patricia J. Brennan in the matter of breach of oral contract regarding support payments. Our client has informed us that you entered into a binding agreement to provide monthly financial support in the amount of $450, pursuant to the dying wishes of your late wife, Vanessa Williams, formerly Brennan. Your recent cessation of these payments constitutes a material breach of this agreement. We hereby demand immediate resumption of monthly payments, plus compensation for the missed November payment. If we do not receive confirmation of resumed payments within 10 business days, we will have no choice but to pursue legal action, including but not limited to filing suit for breach of contract and emotional distress. Please contact our office immediately to resolve this matter. Gabriel read it twice, his initial fear curdling into anger. Emotional distress. Patricia was claiming emotional distress while posting vacation photos on Facebook. He photographed the letter and texted it to Denise, then called the lawyer she'd referred him to, Richard Kaufman. The receptionist put him through immediately. Mr. Williams, I was expecting your call. Ms. Williams briefed me on your situation. I assume you've received threatening communication? A demand letter from Henderson, Price and Associates. They're saying I breached an oral contract. Let me guess. They're claiming your late wife made you promise to support her mother, and that promise constitutes a binding agreement? Exactly that. Kaufman's voice was calm, almost amused. Classic intimidation tactic. They're hoping you'll panic and restart payments rather than face a lawsuit. But here's what they're not telling you. Oral contracts for ongoing support payments are incredibly difficult to enforce, especially when the person who allegedly made the request is deceased and cannot testify. They need clear, convincing evidence that your wife specifically requested this arrangement and that you agreed to it in a way that created legal obligation. Do they have that? No. I have documentation showing Vanessa specifically didn't want her mother involved in financial matters. Then they're bluffing. Send me copies of everything you have. The hospice paperwork, the property records, any communications with Patricia. I'll draft a response letter making it clear you won't be intimidated and that any lawsuit will be vigorously defended. That usually ends it. And if it doesn't, then we countersue for fraud and intentional infliction of emotional distress. But it won't come to that. Lawyers like Henderson, Price and Associates take these cases on contingency, hoping for a quick settlement. Once they realize you have solid documentation and competent representation, they'll advise Patricia to drop it. Gabriel felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. How much is this going to cost me? Initial consultation is free, as promised. The response letter will be $500 flat fee. If it goes beyond that, we'll discuss rates. But Mr. Williams? I've handled dozens of cases like this. Patricia's attorney is fishing. They'll drop it. After hanging up, Gabriel sat in his van feeling strange. Not relieved exactly, but validated. A lawyer who specialized in this kind of fraud had looked at his situation and immediately identified Patricia's tactics. This wasn't grief or confusion on Gabriel's part. This was a pattern, a playbook that people like Patricia ran on vulnerable family members. He forwarded all his documentation to Kaufman's office, then headed back to work. But he couldn't shake the unsettled feeling. Patricia had actually hired a lawyer. She was willing to take this to court, to drag Vanessa's memory through legal proceedings, all to keep receiving money she didn't need. What kind of person did that? That evening, after Maya was in bed, Gabriel's phone rang from an unknown local number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. You think you're so smart. Patricia's voice was venomous, all pretense of wounded mother-in-law gone. Hiring a lawyer, digging through my finances like you have any right to investigate me. Patricia, you shouldn't be calling me directly if you have a lawyer. I'll call whoever I want. You've stolen from me, Gabriel. 6 years of payments. And you think you can just stop because you found some public records? That money is mine. Vanessa wanted me to have it. Show me where Vanessa said. That. One letter, one email, one text message. Anything. I don't have to prove anything to you. A mother knows what her daughter wanted. Then you can explain it to a judge. In the meantime, stop calling me. You're going to regret this. Do you understand me? You're going to wish you just kept your mouth shut and sent the money. The threat was unmistakable. Gabriel's jaw clenched. Are you threatening me, Patricia? I'm promising you. You want to destroy me, to ruin my life because you're selfish, ungrateful. Gabriel hung up. His hands were shaking, adrenaline making his heart race. He immediately called Denise. She just called me directly, even though she has a lawyer. Made threats. Said I'd regret this, that I'd wish I'd kept my mouth shut. Did you record it? No, I didn't think about it. That's okay. Call Kaufman first thing tomorrow and tell him about the threatening contact. Meanwhile, I want you to do something for me. Check your credit report. My credit report? Why? Because people like Patricia don't stop at demand letters. They escalate. And one of the ways they escalate is by screwing with your credit or your finances. Just check it. I might be paranoid, but better safe than sorry. Gabriel pulled up his credit monitoring app, something he checked maybe twice a year. The screen loaded, and his stomach dropped. New inquiry. Henderson, Price and Associates. New inquiry. First National Bank. New inquiry. Capital Credit Services. 3 hard inquiries on his credit in the past week, none of which he'd authorized. Denise, there are 3 inquiries I didn't authorize. All from this week. His sister swore. She's trying to access your credit information, possibly to file claims or liens. Gabriel, you need to freeze your credit immediately. And you need to file a police report for identity theft. Identity theft? She's Vanessa's mother. She has my information from when Vanessa was alive. That doesn't give her the right to run credit checks on you. That's illegal. File the report tonight, online if you can. Document everything. This just went from civil dispute to criminal activity. Gabriel spent the next hour freezing his credit with all 3 bureaus and filing a police report online. The form asked for details about the suspected identity theft, and he found himself typing out the whole story. The 6 years of payments, Patricia's lies, the demand letter, the threatening phone call, the unauthorized credit checks. Seeing it all laid out in black and white, reduced to facts and dates and dollar amounts, made the scope of Patricia's actions crystalline. This wasn't just a family disagreement. This was systematic fraud, and now apparently identity theft and harassment. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're making a huge mistake. Last chance to make this right before everything falls apart for you. Gabriel screenshot the message and forwarded it to both Denise and Kaufman's office email. Then he blocked the number. Another text came through from a different unknown number. Maya deserves better than a father who abandons family. Think about what you're teaching her. That one made his blood run cold. Bringing Maya into it, threatening to use his daughter as leverage. That crossed the line Gabriel hadn't known existed. He screenshot and forwarded that one too, then sat staring at his phone, wondering how many burner numbers Patricia had or how many friends she'd recruited to send threatening messages on her behalf. The next morning, Gabriel dropped Maya at school and went straight to the police station to follow up on his online report. The officer who met with him was young, couldn't have been more than 25, and seemed overwhelmed by the complexity of the situation. So, your mother-in-law is harassing you? My late wife's mother committed fraud by claiming my wife wanted me to send her money. Then when I stopped, she filed false legal claims and is now running unauthorized credit checks and sending threatening messages. The officer typed slowly. And you want to press charges? I want to document it. I have. A lawyer handling the civil side, but the credit checks and threatening messages are criminal, right? Technically, yes. Unauthorized credit inquiries can fall under identity theft statutes. The harassment depends on the content and frequency. The officer scrolled through Gabriel's screenshots. These are definitely threatening. Has she made any direct threats of violence? She said I'd regret this and wish I'd kept my mouth shut. That's not specific enough for a criminal threat charge, but we can file this as harassment and identity theft. If she escalates to direct threats or shows up at your home or workplace, call 911 immediately. Gabriel left the station feeling frustrated. He had documentation, evidence, recordings, but the legal system moved so slowly. Patricia could make his life hell for months before any consequences caught up with her. At work, Terry pulled him aside. You okay? You look rough. Patricia's going scorched earth. Threatening messages, unauthorized credit checks, trying to drag my daughter into it. Terry's expression darkened. She threatened Maya? Not directly. Just implied I'm a bad father for standing up to her. That's lower than low. Terry hesitated. Look, I probably shouldn't say this, but my wife's cousin is a PI. Used to be a cop, now does private investigation. If you need someone to dig up more dirt on Patricia, someone who knows how to find things lawyers might miss, let me know. I'll make an introduction. Gabriel considered it. He had Kaufman handling the legal aspects, but maybe having a PI look into Patricia's finances and activities would uncover something useful. Yeah, actually, that might help. Can you send me your contact info? The day dragged. Gabriel's focus was shot, his mind going through worst-case scenarios. What if Patricia did something to hurt Maya? Not physically, but emotionally. What if she showed up at school? What if she poisoned other family members against him? His phone rang. Kaufman. Mr. Williams, I've sent my response letter to Henderson, Price & Associates. I've also filed a complaint with the State Bar about Patricia contacting you directly despite having legal representation. That's an ethics violation. And I've included notice that we're prepared to countersue for fraud if they pursue this case. She ran unauthorized credit checks on me. I filed a police report. Kaufman was quiet for a moment. That's bold, even for someone pulling a scam. It suggests either she's panicking or she has something else planned. I'm going to recommend you take additional protective measures. Document everything. Vary your routine if possible. Make sure Maya's school knows not to release her to anyone except you without explicit permission. You think Patricia would try to pick up Maya from school? I think desperate people do desperate things. And Patricia is clearly desperate to maintain control. Better safe than sorry. After the call, Gabriel drove to Maya's school during his lunch break and met with the principal. He explained, as calmly as possible, that his late wife's mother was not to be given access to Maya under any circumstances, and that the school should call him immediately if Patricia showed up. The principal, a woman in her 50s who'd worked in Philadelphia schools for decades, nodded knowingly. We've dealt with similar situations. I'll put a note in Maya's file and alert her teacher. Does Maya have a safe word she can use if someone tries to pick her up claiming you sent them? Gabriel blinked. He hadn't thought of that. No, but that's smart. I'll talk to her tonight. Make it something unusual that she wouldn't say by accident, but that she can remember easily. And Mr. Williams? Document everything. I had a case years ago where a grandmother was harassing a parent, and the documentation of school contact attempts was crucial in getting a restraining order. Restraining order. The thought hadn't occurred to Gabriel, but maybe it should have. If Patricia kept escalating, what other option did he have? That evening, Gabriel sat down with Maya and tried to explain the situation in age-appropriate terms. Sweetie, you know how we used to send money to Grandma Patricia every month? Maya nodded, her expression wary. She'd always been perceptive, picking up on adult tensions, even when Gabriel tried to hide them. Well, I found out that Grandma Patricia doesn't actually need that money. She has plenty of her own, and she wasn't being honest with me about whether Mommy actually wanted me to send it. So I stopped. Is Grandma Patricia mad at us? The yes broke his heart. Maya instinctively understood that she was part of this now. She's mad at me, and that's okay, because I did the right thing. But I need you to know something important. If Grandma Patricia ever tries to pick you up from school, or if anyone you don't know tries to pick you up and says I sent them, you say volcano really loud. That's our safe word. It means you need help. Maya's eyes widened. Like the science project? Exactly like the science project. Easy to remember. And if you ever need to use it, you use it loud, and a teacher will help you. Okay. Daddy, are we in danger? Gabriel pulled her into a hug. No, baby. We're safe. I'm just being extra careful because Grandma Patricia is upset, and sometimes upset people do things they shouldn't. But nothing bad is going to happen to you. I promise. He hoped that promise wasn't one he'd regret making. The private investigator's name was Angela Torres, and she met Gabriel at a coffee shop in Fishtown on a Saturday morning while Maya was at Denise's house. Angela was mid-40s, compact and sharp-eyed, with the assessing gaze of someone who'd spent years reading people for a living. Terry says Patricia Brennan is making your life difficult. She slid a business card across the table. Tell me everything." Gabriel laid it all out for what felt like the 100th time. The 6 years of payments, the false promise about Vanessa's wishes, the property sales, the demand letter, the threatening messages, the unauthorized credit checks. Angela took notes on an iPad, occasionally stopping him to ask clarifying questions. "How much total have you paid her?" $32,400 over 6 years. "And you have documentation of all of it?" "Bank records going back to the first payment." "Good. What about Patricia's income sources? Do you know what she's living on beside your payments?" "She's 62, so she might be on early Social Security. But with the property sales, she should have plenty of cash." Angela tapped her stylus against the screen. "Property's worth over $1 million, sold over 6 years. That's not random timing. That's systematic liquidation. People do that for a few reasons: debt, medical expenses, or preparing to move somewhere they need liquid assets. Given that she's spending on vacations and cars, my guess is it's not debt. So either she's planning a major life change, or she's burning through money faster than it comes in." "Burning through how?" "She's not supporting anyone else. Her husband died years ago. She doesn't have other kids. Could be gambling, could be bad investments, could be supporting a boyfriend. Or she could just be terrible with money and living beyond her means. Either way, that's why she fought so hard to keep her payments. She's built a lifestyle that requires more income than she has, and $450 a month was helping fund it." Gabriel hadn't considered that angle. So this isn't about principle for her. It's about money. It's always about money. The emotional manipulation, the threats, the legal intimidation, that's all tactics to protect the revenue stream. Angela pulled up something on her iPad. "I'm going to do a deep look into Patricia's finances. Bank records, credit cards, social media, property records beyond what you've already found, any business filings, civil court records, everything. If she's got skeletons, I'll find them. How much is this going to cost?" "My rate is $150 an hour plus expenses. For something like this, I'd estimate 20 to 30 hours of work. So, figure $3,000 to $4,500 total." Gabriel winced. That was nearly 2 months' worth of the payments he'd been making to Patricia. But if it ended this for good, if it gave him ammunition to make her back off permanently, it was worth it. "Do it. Whatever you find, I need to know." They shook hands, and Angela promised a preliminary report within a week. Gabriel left feeling both hopeful and anxious. He was spending money he didn't really have to investigate someone who'd already taken too much from him. But Kaufman had said documentation was crucial, and Angela could find things a lawyer couldn't. The following Tuesday, Gabriel got a call from Maya's school. "Mr. Williams, this is Principal Davis. We had an incident this morning I need to inform you about." Gabriel's stomach dropped. "Is Maya okay?" "She's fine. She's in class." But Patricia Brennan showed up at the school office at 8:45 a.m. claiming she needed to pick up Maya for a dental appointment. When we told her we had no record of an appointment and couldn't release Maya without your permission, she became belligerent, accused us of keeping her from her granddaughter, said you were poisoning Maya against her. "Did she try to get to Maya's classroom?" "No, security escorted her out before it got that far." "But Mr. Williams, I want to strongly recommend you pursue a restraining order. This is stalking behavior. She came to the school with the explicit intent of accessing your daughter without your consent. I'll call my lawyer today. Thank you for keeping Maya safe." "Of course." "And Mr. Williams? Maya doesn't know any of this happened. We kept it contained to the office. But you might want to talk to her tonight, just in case Patricia tries to contact her another way." After hanging up, Gabriel immediately called Kaufman. She showed up at Maya's school, trying to pick her up without permission. The school had to call security. Kaufman swore, "That's enough for a temporary protection from abuse order. I'll file the paperwork this afternoon. You'll need to go to the courthouse tomorrow morning for an emergency hearing. Bring all the documentation. The threatening texts, the police report about the credit checks, the school incident report. Will this stop her? A PFA creates legal consequences if she violates it. If she contacts you or Maya, shows up at your home or workplace, comes near the school, any of it, she could be arrested. Most people back off once a judge puts legal restrictions in place. But Gabriel? Be prepared for her to violate it anyway. People this invested in controlling others don't always respond rationally to court orders. The emergency PFA hearing was scheduled for Wednesday morning. Gabriel had to take the morning off work, something Terry approved without hesitation. The courthouse was in Center City, an imposing building that smelled like old wood and bureaucracy. Gabriel sat in the hallway outside the courtroom, his folder of documentation heavy on his lap, and waited for his case to be called. Patricia was there too, sitting on the opposite side of the hallway with her lawyer, a woman in an expensive suit who looked distinctly uncomfortable. When Patricia saw Gabriel, her face twisted with rage. She started to stand, but her lawyer grabbed her arm and whispered something sharp. Williams versus Brennan, a bailiff called. The hearing room was smaller than Gabriel expected, just a judge's bench and a table on each side. Judge Maria Gonzalez was in her 50s, with the efficient air of someone who'd heard every variation of human dysfunction. This is a petition for emergency protection from abuse. Judge Gonzalez scanned the paperwork. Mr. Williams alleges harassment, financial fraud, and attempted interference with his minor child. Ms. Brennan contests these allegations. Mr. Williams, present your evidence. Gabriel laid it out chronologically. The 6 years of payments based on false claims about Vanessa's wishes, the hospice documentation showing Vanessa explicitly didn't want her mother involved in financial matters, Patricia's property sales proving she didn't need support, the demand letter when he stopped paying, the threatening phone calls and texts, the unauthorized credit checks, the school incident. Judge Gonzalez examined each piece of evidence, her expression growing more severe. Ms. Brennan, you ran credit checks on Mr. Williams without authorization? Patricia's lawyer stood. Your Honor, those inquiries were made by my firm as part of evaluating the breach of contract claim. They were done in good faith as part of legitimate legal investigation. Credit inquiries require the subject's consent or a permissible purpose under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Collection of a debt is permissible, but only if the debt is valid. Based on this hospice documentation, the alleged debt appears fraudulent. Judge Gonzalez turned to Patricia. Ms. Brennan, do you have any documentation that your daughter requested Mr. Williams provide you with financial support? Patricia's face was red. It was her dying wish. She told me, a mother doesn't need written proof of what her dying daughter wanted. Actually, in legal proceedings, you do. Mr. Williams has documentary evidence that your daughter explicitly didn't want you involved in financial matters. You have only your own testimony, which is conveniently unprovable. The court finds clear evidence of harassment and attempted interference with Mr. Williams's parental rights. Judge Gonzalez signed something on her desk. Temporary protection from abuse order granted. Ms. Brennan, you are prohibited from contacting Mr. Williams or his daughter directly or indirectly. You may not go within 500 feet of their residence, Mr. Williams's workplace, or the child's school. Violation of this order will result in immediate arrest and criminal charges. Do you understand? This is insane. Patricia stood up. He's the one who abandoned me. He's the one who. Ms. Brennan, sit down. Judge Gonzalez's voice was sharp. Your attorney can file an appeal if you wish, but this order is effective immediately. Any further outbursts, and you'll be held in contempt. We're done here. Gabriel walked out of the courthouse feeling numb. He'd won. The judge had clearly seen through Patricia's lies, but there was no satisfaction in it. Just exhaustion and a lingering anxiety about what Patricia would do next. His phone buzzed. A text from Angela Torres. Got preliminary results. Can you meet today? Important. They met at the same coffee shop. Angela pulled up her iPad and turned it to show Gabriel a financial spreadsheet. I pulled Patricia's bank records through a legal database. Here's what I found. Over the past 6 years, she's deposited approximately $1.2 million from property sales, but her current account balance is under $15,000. Gabriel stared at the numbers. She burned through over $1 million in 6 years? Not quite. Significant transfers out to 3 accounts. One in the name of Gregory Mitchell, one to Desert Star Investments, and one to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Total transfers, approximately $800,000. Who's Gregory Mitchell? Angela smiled grimly. Patricia's boyfriend. 57, lives in Scottsdale, Arizona. Divorced, 2 kids from a previous marriage, and a long history of financial fraud schemes. He's been sued 4 times for investment scams. Never been criminally charged, but he's definitely a con artist. The pieces clicked into place. She's been giving him money. Almost certainly. Desert Star Investments is one of his shell companies. I'm guessing he convinced her to invest in his schemes, promising big returns. The offshore account is probably where he's stashing the actual profits, while telling her they're still invested. So Patricia was being scammed, and she was scamming me to fund being scammed by him? Exactly. Gregory's MO is targeting recently widowed or divorced women with assets. He promises them a new life, financial security, maybe even moves them out to Arizona with him. But he's really just draining them dry. Patricia liquidated her properties and handed him most of the proceeds. Your monthly payments weren't about survival. They were about maintaining her lifestyle while Gregory bled her real money. Gabriel felt a strange mix of anger and pity. Patricia had been so focused on controlling him, on maintaining the flow of his money, that she'd apparently missed the much larger theft happening right under her nose. Does she know he's scamming her? Hard to say. Some of these women figure it out eventually. Some never do. But given that she fought so hard to keep your payments, I'd guess her finances are pretty desperate. She probably knows something's wrong, but hasn't admitted it to herself yet. Can I use this? In court, I mean? Absolutely. It shows motive for her fraud against you. She wasn't a poor elderly woman needing help. She was funding a boyfriend's lifestyle and probably getting conned in the process. That undermines her entire legal claim. Gabriel forwarded Angela's report to Kaufman immediately. The lawyer called back within an hour. This is gold, Gabriel. Henderson, Price & Associates just filed to withdraw from representing Patricia. I'm guessing they realize the case is unwinnable and they don't want to be sanctioned for bringing a frivolous suit. We'll still need to formally respond to dismiss the case, but it's essentially over. What about Patricia? Will she face consequences for the fraud? That's trickier. You need to prove she intentionally defrauded you with false claims about Vanessa's wishes. The hospice paperwork helps, but prosecutors are reluctant to pursue cases like this between family members unless there's a clear criminal intent. However, the unauthorized credit checks are a different story. That's identity theft, and you filed a police report. That might actually go somewhere. And the PFA remains in effect. If she violates it, call the police immediately. But Gabriel? You won. She lost her lawyer. You have a protection order, and you've documented everything. Even if she tried to sue you again with a different lawyer, no one would take the case seriously. You're done paying her. You're done being manipulated by her. You're free. Free. The word felt foreign. For 6 years, Gabriel had carried the weight of obligation to Patricia, the belief that he was honoring Vanessa's final wishes. Now he knew it had all been built on lies. Lies Patricia had told to support a lifestyle funded by her own boyfriend's cons. He felt free, yes, but also angry. Angry at the years wasted, the opportunities missed, the stress placed on Maya. Angry at how easily he'd been manipulated, how his grief had been weaponized against him. But underneath the anger was something else. Relief. The payments were done. The harassment had legal consequences now. Maya was safe. And for the first time since Vanessa died, Gabriel could start thinking about their future instead of drowning in manufactured obligation to the past. That night, he sat Maya down and told her the simplified version. Grandma Patricia had been lying about what Mommy wanted, and now there was a court order saying she couldn't contact them anymore. Maya took it better than expected. She'd never been close to Patricia anyway, and kids were remarkably resilient about adult drama, as long as they felt safe. Does this mean we have more money now? Maya asked with the practical bluntness of a 9-year-old. Gabriel smiled. Yeah, baby, it does. Can we go to Sarah's birthday party next month? Absolutely. And maybe we can start doing more stuff on weekends too. Movies, the zoo, whatever you want. Maya hugged him tight. I'm glad you don't have to be sad anymore, Daddy. Gabriel held his daughter and realized she'd been carrying this weight too, watching him stress over bills and work too much and be perpetually exhausted. Patricia hadn't just stolen from him. She'd stolen from Maya's childhood. But that was over now. They were done losing to Patricia Brennan's lies. Gabriel should have known it wouldn't end cleanly. The PFA had been in effect for 2 weeks when Patricia violated it. She didn't show up at the school or Gabriel's apartment or his workplace. She was smarter than that, more calculated. Instead, she found Maya's social media. Maya had an Instagram account Gabriel monitored closely. She was only 9, technically too young for the platform, but half her class had accounts, and he'd made a compromise. She could have one as long as it was private. She only accepted people they knew, and he had full access to check at any time. On a Tuesday night, while Gabriel was reviewing her feed as part of their routine, he saw a new message request in Maya's DMs from an account called at @grandpatricia_love. The profile photo was Patricia smiling with a caption that read, "Loving grandmother, missing my precious granddaughter." Gabriel's stomach dropped. He opened the message request. "It's Grandma Patricia. I miss you so much. Your daddy won't let me talk to you, but I want you to know I love you more than anything. I have presents for you, and I'd love to see you. Maybe we could meet at the park near your school. I'll bring ice cream. Don't tell your daddy. It'll be our special secret. I love you, Grandma." Gabriel's hands were shaking as he screenshot the message. The manipulation was textbook, offering treats, suggesting secrets, targeting the child directly when the adult had shut her out. And it was a clear violation of the PFA, which specifically prohibited all contact with Maya. He called Kaufman immediately. She contacted Maya through Instagram. Direct message offering to meet secretly. "Screenshot it and call the police right now. This is a criminal violation. She could be arrested for this." Gabriel hung up and dialed 911. The operator took his information and dispatched officers to his apartment. Within 20 minutes, 2 police officers were sitting in his living room while Maya watched TV in her bedroom, oblivious to the drama. "Mr. Williams, can you show us the message?" The older officer, badge reading Kowalski, examined Gabriel's phone. "This is a direct attempt to circumvent a protection from abuse order. We'll need you to file a formal violation report, and then we'll issue a warrant for Ms. Brennan's arrest." Arrest? Gabriel had known that was a possibility, but hearing it stated so matter-of-factly was jarring. "Yes, sir. PFA violations are criminal offenses. Judge Gonzalez specifically prohibited all contact with your daughter. This is unambiguous contact, and the offer to meet secretly suggests intent to interfere with your custody. That makes it more serious." The officers took Gabriel's statement and left with copies of the screenshots. Gabriel sat on his couch afterward, staring at his phone, trying to process how Patricia could be so reckless. She had to know that contacting Maya would violate the order. Did she think she wouldn't get caught? Or did she simply not care? The next morning, Denise called. "Patricia was arrested last night. It's all over the neighborhood Facebook group. Already? Police picked her up at her house around 11 p.m. She's being held pending arraignment." Gabriel, people were talking. Not everyone knows the full story, but Patricia's been playing the victim to anyone who'll listen. You need to get ahead of this. Get ahead of it how? I can't exactly post the court documents on Facebook. No, but you can let people know there's more to the story. Patricia's been telling everyone you abandoned her, that you're keeping her from Maya out of spite. Some people are believing her. Gabriel felt a familiar exhaustion. "I'm not going to defend myself on social media, D. Anyone who actually knows me knows I wouldn't do that without reason." True, but the court of public opinion is real, and Patricia's playing hard. Just be prepared for people to have opinions. She was right. Over the next few days, Gabriel started noticing looks at Maya's school pickup, whispers that stopped when he approached. One parent he'd been friendly with for years suddenly became cold, barely acknowledging him. Then came a Facebook post. Someone had created a public post in the neighborhood group. Everyone should know that Patricia Brennan was arrested for trying to see her own granddaughter. What kind of monster keeps a grandmother from her grandchild? Gabriel Williams should be ashamed. The comments were split. Some people defended Gabriel, saying there must be more to the story. Others piled on, calling him cruel and vindictive. A few shared their own experiences with difficult family members and urged compassion. Denise screenshot the thread and sent it to Gabriel. "Want me to respond? I can set the record straight." Gabriel stared at the screenshots, at people he'd lived near for years, making judgments about his character based on Patricia's narrative. Part of him wanted to fight back, to post the court documents and Angela's investigative report and show everyone exactly what Patricia had done. But another part, the part that was tired of this consuming his life, just wanted it over. "Don't respond," he texted Denise back. "This isn't worth engaging. The people who matter know the truth." Patricia's arraignment was set for Friday. Kaufman advised Gabriel to attend, to show the judge he was taking this seriously. Gabriel took another half-day off work, something Terry was getting used to by now. The courtroom was packed with other arraignments, a parade of human dysfunction. DUIs, assaults, petty theft. Patricia was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit, her face haggard. When she saw Gabriel in the gallery, her expression twisted with rage. All rise for Judge Gonzalez. The same judge who'd granted the PFA took the bench. She reviewed Patricia's case file with a frown. "Ms. Brennan, you're charged with violating a protection from abuse order by contacting the minor child at the center of that order. How do you plead?" Patricia's public defender, she apparently couldn't afford private counsel anymore, whispered something to her. Patricia looked like she wanted to argue, but finally said, "Not guilty." Judge Gonzalez raised an eyebrow. "Not guilty? There's a screenshot of your direct message to the child from an account bearing your name and photo. What's your defense?" The public defender stood. "Your Honor, my client denies creating that account. She believes someone may have impersonated her to frame her." Gabriel almost laughed. It was such a transparent lie, easily disproven. Instagram kept IP logs, device information, all traceable back to Patricia's phone and home internet. Judge Gonzalez clearly thought the same thing. "Your client is claiming someone created a fake Instagram account with her photo, name, and personal knowledge of her relationship with the child, all to frame her for a PFA violation? That's what she's asserting, yes." "I see. Bail is set at $10,000. Trial date in 3 weeks. Ms. Brennan, you are ordered to have absolutely zero contact with Mr. Williams or his daughter through any means including, but not limited to social media, email, phone, mail, or third parties. Do you understand?" "This is insane," Patricia muttered. "I just wanted to see my granddaughter." "Ms. Brennan, there's a legal process for grandparent visitation if you believe you're being wrongly denied access. Creating Instagram accounts to arrange secret meetings is not that process. Do you understand the conditions of your bail?" "Yes," Patricia said through gritted teeth. She posted bail the same day. Gabriel didn't know where she'd gotten the $10,000. Though he suspected her boyfriend Gregory might have finally sent money back for once. The trial was scheduled for 3 weeks out, and Kaufman assured him the case was solid. Instagram's legal team will provide the account creation logs showing it came from Patricia's devices. Combined with the PFA violation being so clear-cut, she's looking at potential jail time. How much time? PFA violations can be up to 6 months for a first offense. Possibly more if the judge considers the attempt to meet the child secretly as attempted custodial interference. But realistically, probably 30 to 90 days plus probation. Gabriel tried to feel something about the idea of Patricia going to jail and couldn't quite access any emotion beyond tired resignation. He didn't want to destroy her life. He just wanted her to leave him and Maya alone. The trial itself was anticlimactic. Instagram's logs showed the account was created from Patricia's home IP address, using a device that matched her phone's identifier. The prosecution presented the screenshots, the PFA order, and testimony from Gabriel about the context. Patricia's public defender tried to argue that she'd been acting out of love and concern for her granddaughter, that she'd been denied access unfairly. Judge Gonzalez wasn't having it. "Ms. Brennan, you lied to your son-in-law for 6 years about what your daughter wanted. You defrauded him of over $32,000 while he struggled to raise his child alone. When he discovered your fraud and stopped paying, you threatened him, harassed him, committed identity theft by running unauthorized credit checks, attempted to interfere with his daughter's schooling, and when a court ordered you to cease contact, you violated that order within 2 weeks. Your pattern of behavior shows a complete disregard for legal boundaries and Mr. Williams' parental rights. I'm sentencing you to 90 days in county jail, to be followed by 2 years of supervised probation." You are prohibited from any contact with Mr. Williams or his daughter for the duration of that probation. If you violate these terms, you will serve the remainder of suspended 1-year sentence. Do you understand? Patricia's face crumpled. Please, Your Honor, I'll lose my house. I can't afford. You should have considered those consequences before violating a court order, Ms. Brennan. Bailiff, remand the defendant. Gabriel watched Patricia being led away in handcuffs and felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not vindication, just a hollow relief that it was finally over. Outside the courthouse, Kaufman shook his hand. You're free of her, Gabriel. The criminal conviction gives you grounds to deny any future grandparent visitation requests. She can't touch you or Maya legally anymore. What about the money she took? Can I get that back? Civil court could award it, but collecting would be difficult. Patricia's assets are mostly gone, tied up with her boyfriend's schemes. You could sue, probably win, and then spend years trying to collect maybe pennies on the dollar. Is it worth it? Gabriel thought about the $32,400. What could have bought for Maya? Birthday parties and field trips and new clothes and security. Then he thought about the time and emotional energy it would take to pursue it through civil court, the years of litigation keeping Patricia in his life. No, it's not worth it. I just want to move on. Smart choice. You've got your life back. Don't waste more of it on her. Gabriel drove back to work, picked up Maya from school, and for the first time in 6 years, he didn't have a scheduled payment looming. Didn't have the weight of obligation to someone who betrayed him. Didn't have to choose between honoring a false promise and providing for his daughter. That night, he opened his banking app and looked at his balance. $2,847. Without Patricia's monthly drain, he'd already saved up a cushion. In a few months, he'd have a real emergency fund. In a year, maybe they could move to a better apartment, one with a yard where Maya could play. The possibilities stretched out in front of him, no longer constrained by manufactured duty to a woman who'd seen his grief as opportunity. Maya came into the living room holding a piece of paper. I made this at school. It's for you. It was a drawing of the two of them. Stick figures holding hands, smiles wide, a sun shining overhead. At the top, in Maya's careful handwriting, my dad is the best. He takes care of me no matter what. Gabriel pulled his daughter into a hug, her small arms wrapping around his neck, and felt the final pieces of Patricia's hold on him crumble away. This was what mattered. Not the money lost, not the years wasted, not Patricia's lies or legal battles or jail time. This small human, safe and loved and drawing pictures of sunshine. He'd honor the promise that actually mattered. The one he'd made to Vanessa when Maya was born. To protect their daughter, to raise her right, to make sure she knew she was loved. Patricia had tried to steal that from him with manipulation and fraud. But she'd failed, because in the end, Gabriel Williams was exactly the father Vanessa had believed he would be. And that was the only promise that had ever mattered. 3 months after Patricia's sentencing, Gabriel received a certified letter from her lawyer, a different one this time, not Henderson, Price & Associates. Inside was a settlement offer. Mr. Williams, on behalf of Patricia Brennan, we acknowledge that the financial arrangement between you and our client was based on misunderstandings and miscommunications regarding your late wife's wishes. Ms. Brennan regrets any distress this may have caused and would like to resolve all outstanding matters amicably. Ms. Brennan proposes the following settlement. She will formally acknowledge in writing that your obligation to provide financial support has ended and will make no future claims of any kind. In exchange, you will agree not to pursue civil litigation for return of past payments. We believe this settlement is in everyone's best interests and will allow both parties to move forward. Gabriel read the letter twice, then called Kaufman. It's a face-saving move. She knows you could sue her and win. So she's offering to formally release you from any claims in exchange for you not pursuing the money. Basically, she's trying to end this before you take her to civil court. She's in jail. Why does she care about civil court? Because civil judgments last for years and can attach to any future income or assets. If she ever gets money again, inherits something, wins a lawsuit, whatever, you could seize it. She wants to make sure that once she's out of jail, you can't come after her financially. Should I sign it? Kaufman was quiet for a moment. From a purely legal standpoint, you'd be giving up the right to recover your money. But from a practical standpoint, that money's likely unrecoverable anyway. Signing this gives you closure and costs you nothing you weren't already likely to lose. My recommendation? Sign it. You're not letting her off the hook. She's already been convicted and served time. This just closes the book. Gabriel signed the settlement agreement and had it notarized. The irony wasn't lost on him. Patricia's lawyer had drafted it to make it look like she was being magnanimous, offering to release him from claims. But they both knew the truth. She was the one who'd stolen from him, lied to him, harassed him. The settlement was her admitting defeat without having to admit fault. But Gabriel didn't care about Patricia admitting anything. He cared about moving forward. The 3 months had been transformative. Without the monthly $450 drain, Gabriel had been able to build up savings, pay off the backlog of utility bills, and even take Maya on a weekend trip to Hershey Park, her first real vacation since Vanessa died. Watching her face light up on the roller coasters, hearing her laugh without the constant background worry about money, had been worth every penny. Work was better too. Terry had promoted him to senior technician with a $7,000 annual raise, citing his dedication and improved focus. The timing wasn't coincidental. Terry knew what Gabriel had been going through and had waited until he was clear of it to make the promotion official. You got your head on straight now. Not that you weren't good before, but anyone could see the stress was eating you. Good to have the real Gabriel Williams back. Maya was thriving too. Her grades had improved, and she'd joined the school's art club. The teacher had commented at a parent conference that Maya seemed lighter, more confident. Gabriel hadn't told the school about Patricia's arrest or the legal battles, but kids absorbed more than adults realized. Maya had felt the weight of their financial struggles, the tension of the harassment, even if she hadn't understood all the details. Now that it was lifted, she could just be a kid again. Denise had been his anchor through all of it. She'd helped with Maya when court dates ran long, had proofread legal documents, had sat with Gabriel on the nights when anger or regret kept him awake. Her boyfriend Carlos had helped too, picking Maya up from school when both Gabriel and Denise had court obligations, never asking questions, just being there. She'd never once said "I told you so," even though she'd questioned the payments to Patricia from the beginning. You're a good man. You believed what you thought was Vanessa's dying wish, and you honored it even when it hurt. That's not something to regret. Patricia exploited that goodness, but that doesn't make you wrong for having it. Gabriel wasn't sure he agreed, but he appreciated the sentiment. The neighborhood gossip had mostly died down. A few people still gave him strange looks, but the majority had either heard the full story through the grapevine or simply moved on to newer drama. One parent at Maya's school, the mother of Sarah, whose birthday party Maya had finally gotten to attend, had approached him after drop-off one morning. "I owe you an apology. When I heard Patricia was arrested, I assumed the worst about you. Then my sister, who's a paralegal, looked up the case and told me what actually happened. I'm sorry I judged you without knowing the facts." Gabriel had accepted the apology with grace, though the fact that she'd had to have someone look up court records to believe he wasn't a monster. But that was human nature. People believed the first story they heard, and Patricia had been loud in her victimhood. Patricia herself was still in jail, with 2 months remaining on her 90-day sentence. Angela Torres had provided one final update. Gregory Mitchell, Patricia's boyfriend, had been arrested in Arizona on fraud charges related to a separate scheme. His victims had finally organized and pressed charges, and this time the evidence was overwhelming enough for prosecutors to act. He was looking at 5 to 10 years in federal prison. Patricia will get out to find her boyfriend in prison and her money gone. I almost feel sorry for her. Gabriel didn't. Or at least, he didn't let himself. Sympathy for Patricia felt like backsliding into the mindset that had let her exploit him for 6 years. She made her choices. Now she was living with the consequences. One evening in late November, Gabriel was helping Maya with homework when she asked a question he'd been dreading. "Daddy, why did Grandma Patricia lie about what Mommy wanted?" He'd known this conversation would come eventually. Maya was smart, perceptive, old enough to understand that adult relationships were complicated. He just hadn't been sure how to explain it in a way that didn't make her cynical about people. Grandma Patricia was having money trouble. She had a boyfriend who was taking her money, and she was scared. Sometimes when people are scared, they make bad choices. She thought if she could get money from me, it would help her feel safer. But she was wrong to lie about it. Did Mommy want you to send money to Grandma? No, baby. Mommy wanted me to take care of you. That was always the most important thing to her. Maya nodded solemnly. I wish Mommy was here. Me too. Every day. But you take good care of me, Daddy. Better than Grandma Patricia did. Gabriel pulled her into a hug, blinking back unexpected tears. I'll always take care of you, Maya. That's a promise I'll never break. Later that night, after Maya was asleep, Gabriel opened the storage bin of Vanessa's belongings again. He'd been avoiding it since the day he discovered the hospice paperwork that proved Patricia's lies. But tonight felt different. Not like reopening a wound, but like finally allowing one to heal. He pulled out the photos, the small jewelry box with Vanessa's wedding ring, the hospital bracelet, the few books she'd loved. Each item was a memory, some painful, some bittersweet, all precious. But they were also just things. The real Vanessa, the woman he'd loved, the mother Maya would carry with her forever, wasn't in this box. She was in Maya's laugh, in Gabriel's determination to build a good life for their daughter, in the values they'd shared and the promises they'd actually made to each other. Patricia had tried to weaponize Vanessa's memory, to use Gabriel's grief as a tool of manipulation. But looking at these mementos now, Gabriel realized that Patricia had never really understood who Vanessa was. The woman he'd married wouldn't have wanted her mother bleeding him dry while Maya went without. She wouldn't have wanted Gabriel sacrificing his own stability to support someone who didn't need support. Vanessa would have wanted exactly what Gabriel was doing now. Moving forward, building a life for their daughter, healing. He carefully repacked the box and put it back on the closet shelf. Not forgetting, not discarding, just giving it the proper place in his life. A container for the past that didn't have to dominate the present. His phone buzzed. A text from Denise. Coffee tomorrow morning? My treat. Want to celebrate your promotion properly. Gabriel smiled. Sounds good. 8 a.m. Perfect. And Gabriel? I'm proud of you. You did the right thing, even when it was hard. That takes real strength. He typed back a simple thanks and set the phone down. The apartment was quiet, peaceful in a way it hadn't been for 6 years. No dread about upcoming payments. No anxiety about Patricia's next move. No manufactured obligation weighing on his conscience. Just a father and daughter building their life one day at a time. Gabriel walked to Maya's room and cracked the door open, watching her sleep. She was getting so big, growing up so fast. He'd missed too much of the past 6 years, buried under stress and grief and Patricia's manipulations. But the years ahead were still unwritten. He could still give Maya the childhood she deserved, the opportunities Vanessa would have wanted for her. Standing in the doorway of his daughter's room, Gabriel Williams finally let go of the guilt he'd carried since Vanessa's death. He'd done his best with what he'd known. He tried to honor what he believed was her final wish. And when he discovered the truth, he'd fought for himself and Maya with everything he had. That was enough. He was enough. And for the first time in 6 years, he actually believed it. The next morning was Saturday, bright and clear. Gabriel made pancakes for breakfast, and Maya helped, flour dusting her nose and syrup in her hair by the time they finished. They ate together, laughing at a joke Maya had heard at school, planning their day. Can we go to the art supply store? Maya asked. Mrs. Thompson says I should enter the winter art competition, but I need watercolors. Absolutely. We can go after I meet Aunt Denise for coffee. Want to come with us? Yeah. Aunt Denise always buys me hot chocolate. They cleaned up breakfast together, got dressed, and headed out into the crisp November morning. The city felt different now, full of possibility instead of obligation. Or maybe the city was the same, and Gabriel was just finally able to see it clearly. At the coffee shop, Denise was waiting with 2 coffees and a hot chocolate already ordered. She hugged Maya, then Gabriel, her eyes bright with pride. To new beginnings, she said, raising her coffee cup. Gabriel touched his cup to hers. To new beginnings. Maya raised her hot chocolate too, grinning at being included in the adult ritual. What are we celebrating? Life, Gabriel said simply. We're celebrating life. And in that moment, sitting in a crowded coffee shop with his sister and daughter, the morning sun streaming through the windows and the taste of coffee on his tongue and the sound of Maya's laughter in his ears, Gabriel Williams finally felt free. The weight was gone. The lies were exposed. The manipulator was facing consequences. And he, bruised but unbroken, tested but still standing, was here. Alive. Present. Ready to live the life Vanessa actually would have wanted for him. Not perfect. Not without scars. But his own. 6 months after Patricia's release from jail, Gabriel received a phone call that changed everything he thought he understood about the past 6 years. The call came from a lawyer named Susan Martin at a firm in Center City. Not Kaufman. Not anyone associated with Patricia's case. Ms. Martin explained that she represented the estate of Gregory Mitchell, Patricia's boyfriend who'd been convicted of fraud. Mr. Williams, Gregory Mitchell, died in federal prison 3 weeks ago. Heart attack. As his attorney is settling his estate, some documents came to light that I believe you need to see. They pertain to your late wife, Vanessa Williams. Gabriel's stomach tightened. What kind of documents? I prefer to discuss this in person. Are you available to come to my office this week? The meeting was set for Thursday afternoon. Gabriel took a half-day off work, nerves jangling as he rode the subway into Center City. What could Gregory Mitchell possibly have had that related to Vanessa? The man had never met her. She died before Patricia got involved with him. Susan Martin's office was on the 32nd floor of a glass tower, with views of the entire city. She was 50s with dark hair pulled back in a professional bun, and she had the kind and direct manner of someone who delivered a lot of difficult news to clients. Mr. Williams, thank you for coming. I'll get straight to the point because I know this is going to be difficult to hear. She slid a folder across the desk. When Gregory Mitchell's belongings were inventoried after his death, we found extensive records of his financial schemes. One of those schemes involved your mother-in-law, Patricia Brennan. But the relevant detail for you is this. We found emails between Gregory and Patricia dating back 7 years, 1 year before your wife's death. Gabriel's hands froze on the folder. 7 years? But Patricia said she met Gregory after Vanessa died. She lied. They'd been in a relationship for at least a year while Vanessa was still alive. And Mr. Williams, there's more. In these emails, they discuss Patricia's financial situation and how to, I'm sorry, there's no easy way to say this, how to maximize her inheritance for Vanessa's estate. The room tilted slightly. Vanessa didn't have an estate. She was 28 when she died. We had minimal savings, just the life insurance I'd taken out. Exactly. Which is why Patricia focused on securing ongoing payments from you instead. The emails show that Gregory suggested the strategy. Convince you that Vanessa wanted you to support Patricia, leverage her grief and sense of obligation, create a steady income stream. They discussed it in detail, Mr. Williams. This wasn't Patricia acting alone in desperation. This was a calculated scheme that she and Gregory planned together. Gabriel opened the folder with shaking hands. The emails were there, printed and dated. His eyes caught on fragments. He's so devastated about V's diagnosis. I can work with that. Grieving men are easy to manipulate. Make sure you're there when she dies. Be crying and distraught. Ask him to honor her wishes afterward. He won't be thinking clearly enough to question. $450 a month is good. Not so much he can't afford it, but enough to add up. 5 years is $27K. Plus you can increase it later once he's conditioned. The words blurred. Gabriel forced himself to keep reading. The emails spanned months, documenting how Patricia and Gregory had strategized every detail. The funeral approach, the story about Vanessa's dying wishes, even the specific amount to ask for and when to escalate. But the worst email was dated 3 weeks before Vanessa's death. V is getting worse. Doctor says maybe a month. Make sure you're the one with her at the end, not Gabriel. You need to be able to tell him whatever you want about her final wishes. If he's there, he'll know what she really said. Gabriel's hands clenched on the paper, crumpling the edges. She kept me away from my wife's deathbed so she could lie about her final words. I'm so sorry, Mr. Williams. Patricia told the hospice staff that you'd said you couldn't handle being there for the final moments, that you'd asked her to be with Vanessa instead. The nurses noted it seemed strange but they deferred to what they believed were your wishes communicated through family. I never said that. I never would have said that. Gabriel's voice was hollow. I wanted to be there. Patricia called me and said Vanessa was sleeping peacefully, that I should go home and rest, and she'd call if anything changed. She called 3 hours later to say Vanessa had died. Peacefully, with Patricia holding her hand. According to the hospice notes, Vanessa was conscious for most of those 3 hours. She asked for you multiple times. Patricia told her you were on your way, but got stuck in traffic. The coffee shop hot chocolate from months ago turned to acid in Gabriel's throat. He'd missed his wife's final hours when she'd been conscious and asking for him, because Patricia had lied to keep him away, because she'd wanted to control the narrative about Vanessa's final wishes. There's one more thing. Susan Martin pulled out another document, this one looking older, worn at the edges. This was in Gregory's safe deposit box. It's a letter from Vanessa, dated 2 weeks before her death. I believe Patricia stole it from Vanessa's hospice room and gave it to Gregory for safekeeping. I think you need to read it. The letter was on the hospice stationery, written in Vanessa's increasingly shaky handwriting. Gabriel recognized it immediately. She'd been so weak by that point that writing had become difficult. My dearest Gabriel, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry I couldn't be stronger, couldn't fight this longer. I'm sorry Maya will grow up without me. But I'm not sorry I married you or that we had her. You gave me the best 8 years of my life. I need you to know something important. Do not let my mother manipulate you after I'm gone. I know she will try. She's already been hinting about needing money, about how hard it will be for her without me. But Gabriel, she doesn't need your money. She has properties, investments, money from when Dad died. She's always been this way, dramatic about finances to get people to support her. I don't want you giving her anything beyond basic kindness and the occasional check-in to make sure she's okay. But no monthly payments, no ongoing support. Your obligation is to Maya, not to my mother. Promise me you'll save that money for our daughter's future. I love you. I love being your wife. Take care of yourself and Maya, and don't let anyone, especially my mother, make you feel guilty for living after I'm gone. All my love, Vanessa. Gabriel read it 3 times, tears streaming down his face. This was the letter Vanessa had actually written. These were her real final wishes, the exact opposite of what Patricia had claimed. Patricia stole this. She took it from Vanessa's room and gave it to her boyfriend rather than give it to me. Yes, I believe she knew it contradicted the narrative she was planning to construct. With this letter destroyed, or so she thought, there was no evidence of what Vanessa actually wanted. Just Patricia's word. Gabriel's throat was too tight to finish the sentence. He gestured at the letter. It's yours. It was always meant for you. Gabriel clutched the letter like a lifeline, his wife's words swimming before his tear-blurred eyes. For 6 years, he believed he was honoring Vanessa by supporting Patricia. For 6 years, he'd been doing the exact opposite of what Vanessa actually wanted. And she'd known. She'd anticipated Patricia's manipulation and had tried to prevent it, only to have her own mother steal and destroy the evidence. What happens now? Patricia's been out of jail for months. The criminal case is over. Can I do anything with this? Susan Martin's expression was sympathetic. The criminal statute of limitations for theft is complex, but at minimum, you could file a civil suit for intentional infliction of emotional distress and fraud. The letter proves Patricia knew Vanessa's actual wishes and deliberately contradicted them. The emails prove she conspired with Gregory to manipulate you. This is strong evidence for a civil case. I already settled with her. Signed an agreement not to pursue the money. That agreement was signed under fraudulent pretenses without full knowledge of the facts. These documents weren't available at the time. You could argue the settlement is void due to fraud in the inducement. Any court would likely agree. Gabriel stared at the letter in his hands. He could sue Patricia, probably win, destroy whatever life she'd managed to rebuild after jail. Make her pay for every lie, every manipulation, every hour he'd missed with Vanessa because Patricia had kept him away. But the thought exhausted him. How many more months or years of litigation? How many more court dates and lawyer fees and emotional energy spent on Patricia Brennan? How much more of his life was he willing to give to her schemes? I need to think about it. It's a lot. Of course. Take all the time you need. These documents aren't going anywhere, and honestly, I wanted you to have them regardless of whether you pursue legal action. You deserve to know the truth. Gabriel left Susan Martin's office in a daze, the letter carefully folded in his pocket. He walked aimlessly through Center City for an hour, not ready to go home, not ready to face Maya and pretend everything was normal. Finally, he found himself at a small park and sat on a bench, pulling out the letter again. Vanessa's handwriting, so familiar it hurt. Her words, clear and unambiguous. She tried to protect him from her mother's manipulation, and Patricia had literally stolen that protection. His phone rang. Denise. Hey, you okay? Maya said you had a meeting downtown. D, can you keep Maya tonight? I need some time to process something. Of course. What happened? Gabriel told her everything. The emails, the scheme, the hospice deception, the stolen letter. By the end, Denise was silent. That woman, she finally said, her voice shaking with rage, is evil. Not just greedy or selfish. Actually evil. I don't know what to do. The lawyer says I can sue, that I have a strong case. But D, I'm so tired. I just want to be done with Patricia. I want to move on. Then move on. You don't owe Patricia anything. Not money, not justice, not revenge. That letter is for you, not for a courtroom. It's Vanessa telling you she loved you and trusted you. That's what matters. But shouldn't she pay for what she did? For keeping me from saying goodbye to Vanessa? She already is paying. She's 62, alone, broke, and just spent 3 months in jail with 2 more years of probation. Her boyfriend died in prison. Her daughter is dead. She destroyed every meaningful relationship in her life, chasing money. That's punishment enough. Gabriel sat on the bench as the sun set over Philadelphia, the letter in one hand and his phone in the other, and realized Denise was right. Patricia had already lost everything that mattered. Suing her wouldn't bring Vanessa back, wouldn't give Gabriel those final hours he'd missed, wouldn't undo 6 years of manipulation. But the letter did give him something. The truth. Vanessa had loved him, trusted him, tried to protect him even from beyond the grave. And now, finally, he knew exactly what she'd wanted. For him to live, to care for Maya, to not let Patricia's toxicity poison his life. He was already doing that. Had been doing it since he'd stopped the payments. I'm not going to sue her. I'm just going to keep the letter and be done with all of it. Good, Denise said firmly. Come over for dinner. We'll order pizza. You can tell Maya a simplified version if you want, and we'll figure out how you want to memorialize this. Whole mess, so you can close the book. That night, sitting at Denise's dining table with Maya coloring at the other end and his sister refilling his wine glass, Gabriel told them about the letter. Your mom wrote me something before she died. For a long time, I didn't know it existed. But now I do, and it's very clear. She wanted me to take care of you and make sure we have a good life together. That's what I've been doing, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. Maya looked up from her coloring. Did Grandma Patricia try to stop that? Yeah, baby. She did. But she didn't succeed. We're okay. I'm glad we're okay, Daddy. I don't need Grandma Patricia. I have you and Aunt Denise, and that's enough. Out of the mouths of children. Maya was right. They didn't need Patricia. They had each other, and a future that was finally free of manipulation and lies. Later, after Maya fell asleep on Denise's couch and Gabriel was preparing to carry her to the car, his sister hugged him tight. You're one of the strongest people I know. Not because you fought Patricia in court, but because you're choosing not to fight anymore. That takes real strength. It doesn't feel strong. It feels like giving up. It's not giving up. It's choosing yourself and Maya over revenge. That's wisdom, not weakness. Gabriel drove home with Maya sleeping in the back seat and Vanessa's letter in his pocket. When they got home, he tucked Maya in a bed, then sat at his kitchen table and read the letter one more time. Your obligation is to Maya, not to my mother. Promise me you'll save that money for our daughter's future. He opened his banking app and looked at his savings account. $4,200. In 6 months of not paying Patricia, he'd managed to save more than he had in the previous 3 years combined. By this time next year, he'd have enough for Maya's summer camp, the one she'd been wanting to attend. In 2 years, maybe enough to move to a better neighborhood with good schools. Patricia had stolen 6 years of financial stability from him, but she couldn't steal the years ahead. Those belonged to Gabriel and Maya. He pulled out his phone and composed an email to Susan Martin. "Thank you for getting me this letter. I've decided not to pursue civil litigation against Patricia Brennan. The letter is enough. It gives me the closure I needed. Please bill me for your time in handling this matter, and let's consider it closed." Then he opened a new document on his laptop and began to type. "Dear Maya, one day, when you're older, I'll tell you the whole story of these past few years. How your grandma Patricia lied about what your mom wanted, and how I believed her because I was grieving and wanted to honor your mom's memory. How I fought to protect us when I learned the truth, and how we made it through together. But the most important thing I want you to know is this. Your mom loved us both so much. She wanted us to have a good life, to be happy, to take care of each other. And that's exactly what we're doing. Every choice I make, every dollar I save, every moment I spend with you, that's me keeping the promise I made to your mom when you were born. Not the false promise Patricia made up, but the real one, to love you, protect you, and give you the best life I can. You're growing up so fast, and I'm so proud of the person you're becoming. Smart, kind, resilient. Your mom will be proud too. Love, Dad." He saved the document in a folder labeled for Maya, along with a scanned copy of Vanessa's letter. Someday, when Maya was old enough to understand, he'd share all of it with her. The manipulation, the legal battles, the truth about Patricia. But for now, she could just be a kid, safe and loved and unburdened by adult dysfunction. Gabriel went to bed that night feeling something he hadn't felt in 6 years. Peace. Not the absence of problems. Life would always have those, but the absence of false obligation. He owed Patricia Brennan nothing. He owed Vanessa's memory the truth, which he now had. And he owed Maya a childhood free from the poison of manipulation. Those were debts he could pay. Those were promises he could keep. The weight of the past 6 years finally lifted, replaced not with anger or bitterness, but with a quiet determination to live the life Vanessa had actually wanted for him. To honor her memory not through sacrifice to her toxic mother, but through joy and stability and love for the daughter they'd created together. That was the real promise, the only one that had ever mattered. And Gabriel Williams was finally, completely free to keep it. 2 years later, Maya turned 11 in a backyard that actually belonged to them. Gabriel had closed on the small house in Mount Airy. Ironically, the same neighborhood where Patricia's house was, though they were on opposite sides of the area, and Gabriel had made it clear through his lawyer that Patricia was to maintain the 500-foot distance mandated by her probation. The house was modest, a 3-bedroom row home with a tiny yard, but it was theirs. The mortgage payment was actually less than their old rent had been, and Gabriel had managed to save enough for a down payment by being disciplined about the money that was no longer flowing to Patricia. The backyard was full of Maya's friends. 12 kids from school, including Sarah, who'd become Maya's best friend over the past 2 years. Denise was manning the grill, her husband Carlos, who Gabriel now counted as family, helping set up the piñata. Gabriel watched from the back porch, holding a beer and feeling something he'd almost forgotten. Contentment. "Dad, come help with the piñata," Maya called, waving him over with the unself-conscious enthusiasm of a kid who knew she was loved and safe. He set down his beer and joined the chaos. The piñata was shaped like a paint palette. Maya had won second place in that winter art competition 2 years ago and had been hooked on painting ever since. She was talking about art school now, which seemed impossibly far away and terrifyingly close at the same time. But Gabriel had started a college fund, contributing the $450 every month that used to go to Patricia. In 7 years, Maya would have options. After the piñata carnage and cake, homemade by Denise, chocolate with buttercream frosting, the kids scattered to play while the adults cleaned up. Terry and his wife had come, along with a few of Gabriel's co-workers and some parents from Maya's school. It was a real community, the kind of social life Gabriel hadn't had time or energy for during those 6 years of grinding poverty. "Nice place," Terry commented, surveying the backyard. "Good investment. Thanks. Still can't believe we actually own it. You earned it, man. You and Maya both. As the party wound down and parents collected their sugar-high children, Gabriel found himself alone in the kitchen with Denise, washing dishes while Carlos packed up leftover food. "You hear anything about Patricia?" Denise asked quietly. Gabriel shook his head. "Not in 18 months. Last I heard from Kaufman, she'd finished her probation and moved. Florida, maybe? Or Arizona. Somewhere warm. Good riddance." "Yeah." Gabriel paused, considering. "You know what's weird? I don't hate her anymore. I did for a while, especially after finding out about the letter and everything with Gregory. But now I just don't feel anything. She's just this person who did terrible things and isn't in my life anymore. That's called healing, little brother. Is it?" Gabriel smiled. "Feels more like forgetfulness. Sometimes those are the same thing." Maya appeared in the doorway, paint-stained and grinning. "That was the best birthday ever. Better than last year?" Gabriel teased. Last year they'd gone to an escape room, and Maya had been talking about it for months. "Way better, because everyone I love was here in our house. That's the best part. It's ours." She said it so simply, but Gabriel felt the weight of what she meant. For the first 9 years of Maya's life, they'd been renters, transient, always aware that their home belonged to someone else who could decide their fate. Now they had. That night, after all the guests had left and Maya was in bed exhausted from excitement, Gabriel sat on the back porch with a glass of whiskey and Vanessa's letter. He read it sometimes, not frequently, but on important days. Birthdays, Maya's school achievements, moments when he needed to remember what Vanessa had actually wanted for them. "Your obligation is to Maya, not to my mother. Promise me you'll save that money for our daughter's future." He'd kept that promise. The $32,400 he'd paid Patricia was gone, unrecoverable, but in the 2 years since stopping those payments, he'd saved almost $15,000. The house down payment had taken a chunk, but he was rebuilding. Maya's college fund was growing. They had emergency savings for the first time in years. More importantly, they had peace. Maya was thriving in school, making friends, pursuing her art. Gabriel had been promoted again at work, project manager now, overseeing a team of technicians. His salary had increased to $68,000, and while they weren't wealthy by any stretch, they were comfortable, secure. His phone buzzed. A text from Angela Torres, the private investigator he hadn't heard from since the case ended. "Thought you'd want to know. Patricia Brennan filed for bankruptcy last month. Public records show total debts of $87,000, mostly credit cards and personal loans. She's lost everything." Gabriel stared at the message for a long moment. 2 years ago, this news would have given him satisfaction, validation that Patricia had gotten what she deserved. Now he just felt a distant sadness for a woman who destroyed her own life, chasing money and control. He typed back, "Thanks for letting me know. Hope you're doing well." Then he deleted Angela's message and pocketed his phone. Patricia's financial collapse wasn't his concern anymore. She'd made her choices, and those choices had consequences. But they didn't have to be his consequences. Not anymore. Inside the house, he could hear Maya singing to herself as she got ready for bed. Some pop song she'd learned from YouTube. The sound made him smile. This was what mattered. Not Patricia's downfall, but Maya's joy. Not revenge, but rebuilding. Not the past, but the future. Gabriel finished his whiskey and went inside, locking the door behind him. Their door. In their house. Built on honest work and real promises, not manipulation and lies. He checked on Maya one more time. She was already asleep, her birthday crown from the party still on her head, her face peaceful and content. Gabriel removed the crown carefully and set it on her nightstand, then kissed her forehead. "Love you, baby. Your mom will be so proud of you." In his own bedroom, Gabriel placed Vanessa's letter back in its special box, alongside Maya's birth announcement, their wedding photo, and the deed to the house. These were his treasures, the evidence of a life well lived despite tragedy and betrayal. Before turning out the light, he checked his bank account one last time. Not because he was worried about bills, those were all paid, but because he still marveled at seeing positive numbers, at knowing tomorrow wouldn't bring a choice between groceries and utilities. The balance showed $4,847 in checking, $11,200 in savings, $8,450 in Maya's college fund. Numbers that represented freedom, security, the ability to say yes to birthday parties and art supplies and weekend adventures. Numbers that represented keeping his real promise to Vanessa. Gabriel turned off the light and lay in the darkness, listening to the sounds of his house. The settling of old wood, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant traffic from the main road. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. The sound of home. For 6 years, he'd been a man haunted by false obligation, driven by manufactured guilt, trapped in a cage built by someone else's lies. Those years were gone, stolen by Patricia's greed and manipulation. He couldn't get them back. But he had today. He had tomorrow. He had Maya's childhood and his own future and the truth about what Vanessa had actually wanted. Patricia had tried to steal his life by weaponizing his grief. But she'd failed, because in the end, Gabriel had fought back, not with hatred or revenge, but with something more powerful. The simple act of choosing himself and his daughter over someone else's toxic demands. That choice had saved them both. As sleep finally came, Gabriel's last conscious thought was of Vanessa, of the woman he'd married who'd been strong enough to see her mother's manipulation even while dying. She tried to protect him with that letter, and even though Patricia had stolen it for 6 years, it had eventually found its way home. Everything had found its way home, including Gabriel, and that finally was enough. If this story resonated with you, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever faced a situation where grief was used against you? Or maybe you know someone who's been through something similar. Share your experience. Your story might help someone else who's going through the same thing right now. And if you found value in Gabriel's journey, if his story reminded you that it's okay to stand up for yourself even when it feels impossible, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. We share stories like this every week. Real stories about real people facing impossible choices and finding their way through. Stories about courage, resilience, and the strength it takes to choose yourself when everything in you says you should keep sacrificing. Drop a like if Gabriel's story moved you. And stick around, because there are more stories to tell, more journeys to witness, more proof that even when the world tries to break you, you can find your way back to solid ground. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And remember, you're stronger than the lies people tell about you, braver than the guilt they try to make you carry, and more deserving of peace than you might believe right now. We'll see you in the next one.